they can come to us, and we specialize in working with them. Got to clock out for lunch. But yeah, so our job is to basically help build kids' resumes. We build their resumes and help them get ready for the workforce. A lot of the kids that'll come in, they'll either have history with failing at school, or they're just trying to get back on track. Or sometimes we just get kids who will come in and they'll just want to get on track right away, right after they graduate. But the main objective for us is to help build resumes and build skills. So what the program entails is they'll come in, they'll sign up, see if they qualify. They'll come in, they'll do a 2-week workshop, and in that 2-week workshop they'll learn soft skills like how to interview, how to dress properly, making sure that they don't have odor, making sure that they're all taken care of, right? So a lot of these skills they don't learn at home, so we're teaching them that. And some of these kids, they can't afford school, so they'll just come in and they'll just learn. So at the end of the program, they come to me, and I work as a business account specialist. So my job is to go meet local business owners, and then I'm the linking person between the participant and the business owner. So we have something called work experience. So the work experience is either 100 or 200 hours. So I'd partner up with, say, for instance, Antoine. Say we partner up, I say, hey, I think you'd be a good fit for our program. So then I would find somebody in our database, or kids that I'm working with that have just finished the workshop, and I'll say, hey, Antoine, there's a kid who I feel like will do really well, and he wants to learn from you. He wants to learn your trade. So what I'll do is I'll place them there for 100 to 200 hours, and they work almost like an intern. So it's a government funded program, so we pay them. So we'll pay them. I'm basically like their supervisor, and then Antoine's their on-site supervisor. So we'll pay them for we just raised it from $14 to $15 an hour. So they get paid $15 an hour for up to 200 hours, and I go and collect their timesheets. We cover workers' comp, and basically at the end of the program, if you feel like, hey, they're a rock star, this kid did really well, then after that you can hire them and they can be your real employee, or you can just say, hey, I don't have the capacity to take care of this right now, but in the future I would like to look out. But then at the end of the day, what this does is it helps build their resumes, because this kid may or may not have had an opportunity to work with a particular person that I placed them with. They could work for I had a kid who just got hired at Hedricks, but he wouldn't have got a Hedricks Chevrolet job if we were that bridge between them. So that's my job. I go and I meet business owners, and basically it's just an agreement. It's just a verbal agreement. Like, hey, we'll host the work experience. But then there's all the other side. So after that, after their 200 hours, we'll help them find employment. So we already have contacts with a lot of local business owners. So, I'd reach out, say, for instance, I'm going to use it as an example again. I'm like, hey, Antoine, do you have any room for, are you looking for anybody for direct hire? And then, if he says yeah, then, we can hook them up. So that's my job in a nutshell. It entails a lot, but basically my job is to help place people and help build their careers.
Nice.
Any questions?
Yeah, so it's 200 hours, and that is 200 hours. Is there a certain amount of time, like if folks aren't working 20 hours a week, or is it, is there a certain number of months that you have for that to go through?
So the it's not a duration of time necessarily. That's it's about the amount of hours. So
if it takes 6 months for them to get that 200 hours, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just what happens is the kid they'll come to me, and then say, for instance, we want to place them with you, but we would talk. I would say, hey, I have somebody who I think would do really well with you. You can choose to interview them, and then you can decide a schedule, and then we can decide a schedule, and then I create a contract that says, hey, this participant is going to be here from this date to this date, and they're going to work this many hours. So I decide all that, or we decide it all together before the participant starts.
A couple of other questions. So number of supervisors that have to be on site to get more than, like, how many people can you place? And let's say someone shows up and they're there for, I don't know, a day or two, it doesn't even matter. There's a point where they're not going to work out.
Right.
What do we do?
That's as simple as just calling me and saying they're not working out, and then I can just talk to them and see what we can improve on.
And then you place someone else?
I could potentially. So the way it works is the participant has to match. They take what's called an ONET. They get an ONET score. So they take a test. They take an assessment, and that assessment will tell us, where they favor, as
What
far
kind
as
of
like.
things does that assessment look at?
It basically just looks at categories like personality, like their attentiveness on certain things, what they're attracted to. So
Is
they
it
can
measuring social emotional intelligence?
a little bit, not deep, not like really
Right.
deep, but it does measure a decent amount of that.
Okay.
I didn't bring an ONET score an example, but basically we'll use that, and then we'll also use what they tell us. So if they say, hey, I really want to get into plumbing, but their ONET score says something completely different, then we'd have to figure out a happy medium. Just because it is government funded, so we do need to make sure it's in compliance, and that way the government, our higher ups aren't like, hey, why is this kid who scored really well in retail working in a plumbing job? You know what I mean? So it just has to make sense. And then you had another question. I feel like I didn't. Did you have two questions there?
Giving the person place.
Okay, yeah. So that really depends on, my caseload. My caseload might have a bunch of kids who just want to work retail, or it could be a bunch of kids who want to work for the SPCA. It really does. We really can't.
Sure.
We
And
can't
how
figure that out.
do you coordinate with the folks in the office who work with the adult population? So if I wanted a mix of adults, personally I want more mature workers, but I wouldn't be completely opposed to youth. If I want to vet them and interview and all that, but I would initially say I want your more mature workers that have some experience, have some maturity, and are just displaced at this point and need to get kind of back in that.
Right.
That would be my ideal. But so do you coordinate and cross-coordinate with the other folks that place that population?
Yeah, so I know they run a little bit differently than us. I know their work experience program is a little bit different. So I could definitely point you in the right direction now.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just don't know a ton about what they do because we're in a completely separate office than the adult program.
And you guys are only based in here in Fresno County, or?
So we have, we're pretty much all over California, but yeah. So the overseeing company, like the main company is called Equus Workforce Solutions, and then Workforce Connection is just kind of like a brand here in Fresno.
Federal funding, workforce investment board.
What, are you limited to certain types of work only?
Not necessarily. We work with pretty much anybody except for if it's like an entrepreneurial type of job where, like, say for instance, it's a guy just making sales and he just wants extra help. It gets a little fuzzy there, But yeah, for the most part, most businesses we do work with. And if there is some type of like fuzziness, then I talk to my supervisor and make sure that it works out.
And some of that fuzziness gets handled in some of the requirements. Like you have to have a building, so someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, but what if you did have if it was a mobile type thing? So, if you had someone that had a taco truck, and so it's not exactly a building, it's mobile, but you might need workers.
So yeah, that's the thing. We can't do anything like that just because the insurance for that is completely separate. It's a whole different thing. And our workers' comp doesn't cover that. So if they were to get hurt, we can't really say we're liable for it.
What's that do for the construction field?
So that's why we kind of shy away from working with construction. We have in the past, but construction sites change a lot. I mean, for instance, you could be working construction, on a site for 3 or 4 months, but if that participant is placed there and then you're in the middle of switching over to another site, it gets kind of fuzzy with us. So we just try to limit it to spaces like this, brick and mortar.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the main things, is just trying to limit it to brick and mortar spaces, or else it just gets a little bit too,
And what was the answer on how many people can you place at a site?
Oh yeah, so that was the question that you asked. So it's 2 per supervisor, so 2 participants per supervisor. So if you have, 2 supervisors, you can have 4 people. And then the other side of things is direct hire too. So if you are a business that is mobile, we have a bunch of kids who have just finished their work experience, and you say, hey, I'm looking for people. I can also help you with direct hire. If you're just looking for employees, and like pretty much I'm like the filter. So I can say, hey, I feel like this person would be fit really well, and then you could interview them. So it just
and
depends.
direct hire has different requirements then?
No, direct hire is just almost like it's like you put in an Indeed an Indeed invitation out. It's just you're going through me because I've already met the kids. Right. I've done pretty much a lot of. I know what they are good and what they're bad at, so it's kind of like, hey, do you have anybody who you can send to me? Yeah.
In direct hire, you're not doing any support in terms of covering your salary or insurance.
For us? No, we don't do any of that. We're just pretty much like a middleman for you for direct hire. Yeah. Any other questions?
So y'all don't have any other questions? Latoya, did you have one?
Well, it wasn't really a question. It was kind of, I had did the workforce training as an adult, as older than 25. And it was through, to get my CNA. So they had to do a 2-week program.
Yeah.
And get certification for completing that. And then they pay for you to go to school to get that. So maybe with the adults, it's probably something in that particular thing to make sure that they're ready.
Yeah, we do a lot. I know the adult program does a lot of that programs.
I hired from them years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really good resource. It's something I didn't know about when I was in school here. And being an adult now, working with that, it's a blessing, Not a lot of business owners know about it, and not a lot of kids know about it. So it's just about spreading the awareness, and it's just helping. It's a win-win for everybody. At the end of the day, the business owner's winning because, payroll, it helps with payroll, kind of relieves that for a couple months. And then it helps build a resume of somebody who may not have had an opportunity before. So I see it as a pretty fulfilling overall. And if it works out, it works out. It's just, those are our success stories. And, we love to hear those, like the Hedricks kid. Like I said, his first work experience didn't work out. He was doing bad, he wasn't showing up on time, but he got to Hedricks. And he just did really well. And so that just proves, it's not necessarily the kid a lot of the times. It's the work environment, because they don't understand. A lot of people just don't understand that you have to enjoy what you do, or else it's not gonna work out. You can work for a check, but not for long.